Hey folks, this is JR with DIY Prepper. Welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be talking about the dangers of bugging out and also things that could derail your bug out plan. And I think most of us would agree that if you have the choice, bugging in is a far better option. You know the area, that's where all your stuff is, but there are some situations that might require you to leave. And one right now that's really relevant is we're getting started with hurricane season. The more those storms start to form and they start heading our way, the more people are going to be headed inland to get away from those. So now's kind of a good time to just go over some, just bugging out good practices. But also, you got to plan for the unpredictable. The world has been deteriorating at a alarmingly fast rate for the past couple of years. And it just makes sense to have an exit plan that you can use to get to safety if need be, especially if you live somewhere like a major city that could be targeted by like terrorists or an enemy state. Or it could also be the site of social unrest that you just don't want to stick around for, keep your family around, all that. So this video, unlike others that are focused on what you should do during a bug out, this is going to be largely focused on the dangers of bugging out and then also things that could derail your bug out plan, along with ways to deal with those so that if you do have to bug out, you'll know how to anticipate and deal with those obstacles when they come. And the first big obstacle that you could face during a bug out is the human element. More specifically, the human element of you and your loved ones. A lot of time we think that it's always going to be like bad guys or bad road conditions that completely derail everything, but more often than not, it's probably going to be our own bad planning or lack of planning, also lack of communication or ineffective communication that causes the whole thing to fall apart. So one example of that could be maybe you or somebody in your family has an attachment to somebody else that they aren't wanting to leave behind. I saw a really good kind of docudrama. It was called American Blackout. It was done several years ago, and there was this girl who didn't want to leave her boyfriend, who was a complete dipstick, by the way. But anyway, so her family ended up taking him with them, and he caused all sorts of problems because he didn't really have that prepper mindset. But I mean, you got to know that if you have, teenagers, they might have a hard time leaving their boyfriend or girlfriend behind. So you got to know how you're going to deal with that, even if it is just the caveman thing of throwing them over your shoulder and plopping them in the car. I don't know. That's up to you. But then also another big one is just waiting too long. Maybe it's because of your job. You don't have time off, your boss doesn't want you to leave, or maybe you're just a workaholic and you're refusing to go. Because of that, you might not leave until it's kind of too late to. And there could be other things also that are keeping you there. But once you wait too long, then you're going to be dealing with traffic conditions, gas stations might be out of fuel, things like that. So you definitely want to have red lines that if this happens, we are going to go. You need to have that planned out. I mean, preferably even written down. Write down those things that once they happen, you get out so that you don't have to be thinking about those things, making those decisions when you're stressed out because the world is on fire, so to speak. Another big danger of bugging out is that you might not make it where you are needing to go, and that could be for many reasons. It could be for route issues, vehicle problems, but it's important to remember that the longer the distance that you need to travel, the greater the chance that something will go wrong from point A to point B, just because you increase the distance, you increase the time, that gives more of an opportunity for stuff to go wrong. But one big reason that I have seen people not make it where they're going is they didn't really have a destination planned out in their head from the very beginning. And you might think, well, that's completely ridiculous. Yes, as a prepper, we think so. But a lot of folks, when they're trying to get out of town, they're just trying to get out of town. They'll figure out where they will end up later on. And that's how they end up in some not very nice refugee areas where, of course, we know about the crime is a problem there. I know that was a big problem during Katrina. So Know where you're going. Don't just drive out of town and be like, oh, we'll find a hotel somewhere along the way. This isn't a summer vacation, and you probably even shouldn't even do that then. But whether you're going to a friend's house, a relative's house, if maybe you're like the Uber prepper and you have like your own bug out retreat, that would be cool. Or even if it's a state park hunting property or somewhere else, know exactly where you're going and how to get there, and have some backup options as far as routes go in case your normal route is blocked or otherwise inaccessible. The next danger of bugging out is that it's probably going to take longer than what you would expect it to. And this is one thing that I would definitely count on happening. Is, say, if you're driving from Houston to Dallas because of a hurricane, don't go by how long it would normally take you. And if you've lived through a few of those, you know that. But if you're bugging out, chances are a lot of people are doing the same thing. So you need to count on roadways being congested and there being other problems along the way. So you want to make sure that you have plenty of supplies with you. Of course, you want to have plenty of food and water in the car. And then also have additional fuel. Even if you don't have a generator, it's a good idea to get some gas cans. And then what we do when we go on road trips is we actually keep an empty gas can in the car with us. Maybe the world goes to pot while we're on vacation. We can top off our tank and fill up that gas can so that we have a little bit extra gas to help us get where we're going. The next danger of bugging out involves other people, and this is probably the one that people like to talk about or think about the most. You know, we think of criminals waiting by the roadside to ambush us, or how we're going to deal with like military or police checkpoints or road closures and things like that. And as far as the criminal element goes, of course, have ways to defend yourself, know how to look way ahead so that you know if there's a potential problem down the road and maybe go a different way before you get there. And then also kind of the same thing goes for checkpoints and roadblocks. Keep an eye out way ahead of where you are so that if need be, you can turn around, take a different road, whatever. And that leads us to our next one, which is road conditions. And I know they're kind of related, but since you don't really have a way of guaranteeing that your primary route is going to be good to go when you need it, it's a good idea to have backup routes that you have practiced, along with paper maps with alternative routes marked on them with something like a highlighter, so that if a road is washed out or tree limb has fallen over it and you don't have a chainsaw, whatever the case may be, that you can navigate around those obstacles and figure out an alternative route to help get you where you're going. Now that we've talked about all the things that can go wrong with a bug out, let's talk about some best practices that we can do to help make sure that our bug out is successful. And the first one's pretty obvious for preppers, and that's have a bug out bag. Make sure it has food, water, ways to purify additional water as you go along. Make sure it has your shelter needs covered, also basic survival tools, so that in case you aren't able to make it to your destination, you can make it there on foot, or at least make it somewhere safer on foot. And there's a lot of good resources out there. Probably the best is Creek Stewart's How to Build the Perfect Bug Out Bag. I showed that on my Best Books for Prepper and Survival video a while back. I might do my own video on that a little while later. But at the very least, if a bug out happens quickly and you aren't able to gather everything you want to, at least you can get those bags for you and your loved ones in the car so that you have something with you. And then also make a list of supplies that you would want to take with you if there were to be some sort of situation that requires you to bug out. And one of those is going to be, like financial documents. It's good to have like a little thumb drive that has, your different insurance policies, banking information, social security cards, all that kind of stuff in one place. But if you want to have the hard copies of those, put that on the list. Also, different kinds of food, most notably long-term food storage. Also, probably water filters. I did a full list. Well, not a full list, but I did kind of a starter list on my website of items that you would want to take with you during a bug out. And I will be sure to link to that in the description of this video. It has several different items, and then it also has like an additional page full of lines with little check boxes next to it that you can use to fill that list out to suit your own needs, because everybody's bug out list, while it's going to have a lot of the same stuff on it, it's also going to be very different also. And you want to organize your supplies so that you can take them with you easily. Plastic totes, they're excellent for this. I mean, you can size them to suit the gear that you're taking, but I did a video a while back that was how to build a lights out kit, and I had everything in this big black tote. Well, a lot of that stuff is still in that big black tote, so A, I can find it if we're having to shelter in place, but also if we needed to get out of Dodge, it would be pretty easy for me to just grab that, throw it in the back of my wife's car, or throw it into the back of my truck, and then get out of town, which brings me to my next thing: practice your bug out. Make sure that, you know, all the stuff that you're planning on taking with you will actually fit in your car, and play the car loading Tetris game before you actually need to leave, so that you know what order to load things in, because that's pretty important. Loading stuff in the right order, putting it in the right place, can make a big difference between, you know, having all your stuff with you and being able to load it quickly versus having to leave very valuable stuff behind, or just forgetting something. I mean, how annoying would it be that you load up the box that has, you know, your extra Berkey filters, if you have those, and maybe a couple Sawyers, but then you leave your Berkey countertop sitting in the kitchen because you forgot it because you didn't practice your bug out. That's not a good situation to be in. Next thing you should do when bugging out is be the gray man as much as possible. And if you're bugging out with your family, you want your entire family to kind of have that gray quality. You don't want to stick out in any way, shape, or form. You don't want to seem like super prepared, but you don't want to be panicky and disorganized either. You just kind of want to be middle of the road so that you don't attract attention to yourself, most notably from predatory individuals, because if you look super prepared and it's obvious that you're decked out with all sorts of gear, that's going to attract one breed of bad guy. And if you look super panicky and disorganized, look kind of like the weak wounded gazelle, that's going to attract a different breed of predator. So if you just kind of blend in, look kind of middle of the road like everybody else, then that's going to help people's eyes to just basically roll off of you. And then it should go without saying, keep your vehicle in as good a shape as possible. Do things like keep up with your oil changes, know why that check engine light is on, and deal with it. And then also a big one is your tires. Make sure those are in good condition. Make sure they have enough tread and life left in them that they could go on an extended, not necessarily desired road trip, and know whether or not you have a spare. A lot of cars today, they don't even come with donuts anymore. They come with a free trial to, you know, roadside assistance or something like that. So you don't even need a spare tire, which we know that's a load of nonsense. So make sure you have a spare tire. Know whether it is a full size or donut, because that can be a big deal also. I mean, a full size spare that's just like your other tires is far preferable to a little donut that isn't going to last all that long and it's not really supposed to go as fast as those full size tires. So know what you have. And another thing that you should do to help make your bug out successful is have meetup locations. A lot of things that could happen that would require you to bug out can be seen a good ways off, like a hurricane. You're going to have some reaction time with that. But there might be something that just kind of happens out of the blue that you have to deal with. So if an emergency happens suddenly, your family should know where they are going to go if something like that happens. Because you might not be together when it goes down. You could be working in this part of town, your spouse is over here, then you got kids dotted around at school. So know who's going to get what kid, and then where they go afterwards. Are you going to meet back at home? Are you going to meet somewhere out of town between where you live and your bug out location? But all that should be thought out and documented so that if you aren't able to reach each other by text or by cell phone call or email, that you will still know what to do. So a laminated card's a good idea, something that you can stick in like your wallet, your purse, maybe slip down into your kid's backpack if they're a little older. Just have a way that you guys will know what to do, and then have reminders that you can keep on your person so that when people are all panicky and they don't know what to do, they don't really have to make a decision. They can just read something that tells them what to do. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Y'all be sure to check out my other video that covers particular situations where you will need to bug out by clicking the card. Y'all have a good one. Thanks again.